As a trigger-happy, sword-swinging, bloodthirsty action player, doesn't it half take the wind out of your sails when you get to a boss room and realize you've been beaten to the punch? I'm Ewan, you're watching WhatCulture Gaming, and here are 8 video game bosses who were dead when you arrived. Ooh. Number 8. Lady Maria, Bloodborne. True to the acclaimed format of From Software's modern RPGs, the DLC for Bloodborne, The Old Hunters, raises a hell of a lot more questions than it answers. The expansion setting, The Hunter's Nightmare, is a horrific mashup of poorly reconstructed in-world locations, from the basic cathedral ward to the forgotten fishing hamlet. And standing between these two locales is the Astral Clock Tower, where an old hunter, Lady Maria, resides. The cryptic lore suggests that Maria killed herself and wound up in the nightmare after giving in to her craving for blood once more. The player finds her body in the clock tower, where upon interacting with it causes her to spring to life and pull you in close. This probably sounds like a very fun time until you hear what she has to say. A corpse should be left well alone, she whispers ominously, before wiping the floor with you in a hectic boss battle. Because the usual rules don't seem to apply in this place, Lady Maria may actually be dead when you meet her, but since she is bound to the nightmare, can only truly be killed by your own hand. Number 7. Sigma, Mega Man X6. The main antagonist of the Mega Man X series, Sigma, not to be confused with Ligma, no relation, is one of those reoccurring bosses that just refuses to go away for good. You can blow him to pieces, blast him into space, burn him to a crisp, or beat him down to a sad pile of nuts and bolts, and he'll still somehow find a way to slither back into place by the next installment. Mega Man X6 is particularly noteworthy in this regard, as Sigma is rebuilt in entirely the wrong way by another of the game's main enemies, Gate. As such, he possesses little memory or consciousness save for his hatred towards the series' protagonist, X. There's an argument to be made that the advanced Reploid isn't even truly back at all. Indeed, when you encounter him, Sigma's body is dropped lifelessly into the arena, not moving for a good few seconds before he stands up. Though barely able to speak, he does put up a fight, eventually changing into an equally incomplete final form, Hell Sigma. This version of the character is just a sad sight. Indisputably dead before you arrived and now with only the bare minimum of life about him. Putting him out of his misery shouldn't be a hard call to make here. Number 6. ISSHIN, the Sword Saint. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Just before the end of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, your wise old friend and fellow swordsman, ISSHIN Ashina, will pass away due to illness. It's not exactly surprising given that he's extremely old by the time you meet him, but it does set a foreboding kind of tone for the final fight ahead of you. In the field where the game began, Lord Genichiro, ISSHIN's grandson, challenges you to one last showdown. Once you gain the upper hand, he does the unthinkable and slits his throat with the Black Mortal Blade, a sword able to open the gate to the underworld. And yes, it is exactly as cool as it sounds. After this, a much younger version of ISSHIN forces his way out of Genichiro's wound, which kills the latter and subsequently offers the former up to you as the game's true final boss. Technically, this isn't the same ISSHIN we knew back in Ashina Castle, but at the same time, it is, because old ISSHIN is dead, and the version we're faced with here is simply ISSHIN's spirit reincarnated in his prime fighting age. After being told what a great sword fighter the man is for the whole game, it was probably somewhat expected that you'd duel him at some point or another, but still, who was actually expecting this? Number 5. ZOLTUN KULLE, Diablo 3. From the moment you first stumble upon this character, almost everything in Diablo 3 seems to tell you not to trust him. Nobody has anything nice to say about the man, and all the lore you find just rubs it in further that he's not the kind of person you need accompanying you on your quest to kill Diablo. Zoltun is a former member of the Holodrim, whose heretical experiments resulted in him being tracked down and dismembered by the rest of the Order, who were. He created the Black Soul Stone, a powerful artifact capable of containing all of the prime evils, and so, even though he seems mighty dodgy, you enlist the help of his restless spirit in order to get your hands on the invaluable relic. In exchange for reconstructing his body, Zoltun agrees to help you find the Black Soul Stone. But, surprise surprise, he betrays you as soon as he's corporeal again, and you have to kill him a second time over. Should have just trusted your gut, right? Number 4. Ganon, Zelda Oracle Series. Speaking of bosses that just refuse to die, Ganon is Link's arch-nemesis, so of course you would expect him to die and be resurrected over and over and over again as the Legend of Zelda series progresses. The twin 2001 Game Boy Color entries, Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, have a linked ending if played one after the other, and in it, the villain Twin Rover plans on sacrificing Link in order to bring the classic franchise baddie back once and for all. Needless to say, it doesn't go as planned, and Twin Rover is instead used as the sacrifice themselves. The great beast Ganon returns, but not as you know him. The ritual was incomplete, and what appears before you is little more than a mindless killing machine. Despite his lack of intelligence though, Ganon is not an opponent to be taken lightly, so it's best to put aside your disbelief and sticking with your sword for the gazillionth time over. Number 3. Dracula, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Symphony of the Night begins at the point where its predecessor, Rondo of Blood, ends. As Richter Belmont, the player defeats Count Dracula and seems to put an end to his threat there and then. However, 4 years later, the castle reappears and Dracula's son, Alucard, awakens to investigate both his father's castle and Richter's disappearance. So then, for the majority of the game, Dracula is dead and gone, and as you'll discover, Richter looks to have turned to evil and become the new lord of the castle. I'm betting that more than a few of us fell into that particular pitfall on our first playthrough. In reality, Richter is being brainwashed by Dracula's servant, Shaft, can you dig it? Damn right, who claims that the Count's return is all but imminent, right before you chase him through an inverted version of the castle. You can assume that Shaft's efforts paid off during this section of the game, as Dracula is waiting for you as soon as you reach the heart of the castle. His nightmarish ultimate form is more than a match for Alucard's swordsmanship, and despite the fact you've technically killed the guy already as Richter, do not assume you can do it again quite as easily. Number 2. Light-Eating Zagroot, Ratchet and Clank All for One. Though people may argue that the Ratchet and Clank series started a slow downward spiral after the first 3 PS2 classics, the multiplayer spin-off game, All for One, is still immensely fun to play, either by yourself or with up to 3 friends. The opening sequence of the game has the team go up against a light-eating Zagroot, a creature that Dr. Nefarious unleashes in the city of Luminopolis in an attempt to destroy Captain Quark. Moments prior, it stood within the city as a kind of fossilized statue and, thanks to Nefarious, is now reanimated and ready to kick the bolts out of your unfortunate heroes. Defeating this beast comprises the entire opening level of the game, having you go through all sorts of perilous courses and enemy onslaughts before you can finally send the striped so-and-so plummeting vials down to its death. With all the horrifying creatures littering the Ratchet and Clank universe, couldn't Dr. Nefarious have found an easier way of killing Quark than defossilizing a local landmark? Makes you think what would happen if Lord Grey came out of Newcastle's monument and laid waste to the city. I don't want that to happen. And number 1. Nicole Brennan, Dead Space 2. One of the most intriguing twists in the Dead Space series is the revelation that Nicole Brennan, the girlfriend of protagonist Isaac Clarke, has been dead the entire time. All the times Isaac saw her, communicated with her, and even ran into her aboard the USG Ishimura were nothing but illusions, byproducts of his exposure to the mysterious alien monument, the Marker. In Dead Space 2, Isaac's dementia is now profound, and a ghostly apparition of Nicole appears to him throughout the entire game, tormenting him with reminders of his guilt, horrifying visions, and the repeated plea of "make us whole." Despite knowing this time around that Nicole isn't really there, the threat she poses seems far more tangible, as Isaac is constantly shaken by the hallucinations which only grow more serious the closer he gets to the Marker. As he reaches the end, the player is pulled into Isaac's mind, where a fierce battle forces him to accept his guilt and defeat his inner demons once and for all. In a way, Isaac's final opponent in Dead Space 2 is himself. But the shape it takes, that bloodied, light-spewing spectre of his lost love, that's not something we're ever going to be able to forget. And those were 8 video game bosses who were dead when you arrived. Know of any other resurrected bosses who gave you grief? Let us know in the comments below, and please don't forget to drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, and to subscribe to WhatCulture Gaming so you don't miss another upload going forward. I've been Ewan. You can catch me on Twitter if you want to, @EwanRuinsThings, but that's it. See you next time. Bye!